Greetings all, and welcome to Lucas Brews. In today's video, we're going to be continuing our look at various 1/72nd scale Bf109G and F series kits, with perhaps one of the most requested and, in my opinion, exciting of these kits being the Eduard Bf109G from one of their various kits that they have on offer. So, without further ado, let's have a look at this one. So starting out as usual, we'll have a look at the box, followed by the instructions, and then we'll have a look at all the plastic parts and goodies that actually make up the kit. And this is a rather large box, and as you can see we've got a picture of two different Bf109s on the front cover with a sort of scratched up looking background. And interestingly, they've sort of done a almost a wooden travel chest kind of texture on the sides here with these little rivets and a little lock kind of latch, which I think looks quite cool, and they've even done the little hinges at the top there. We've got the limited dual combo version of the Bf109 G5 and G6, which they've labelled as the Gustav Part 1. So the Gustav's obviously the nickname for the G model of the 109, and this is one of the several limited kind of sets they do, which include two different aircraft, or two kits. Got our scale in the bottom here and the Eduard logo at the top there. On the bottom here we have all of the massive markings, or not even all of them. You've got some of the markings included in this kit, plus there's two more. So that's pretty cool, gives you a good idea on the sheer variety you'll get with this kit. Then on the side here you have the product number of 2144, the barcode, a little bit more detail about the kit, and then a repeat of the box art. Nothing on the back, which is pretty typical for Eduard. Then up the top here we have a little bit more detail about what's included, including a mention about the photo etch and pre-painted parts for the details, the die-cut masks for masking off the canopies, and you've got decals for 14 marking options, which is quite a lot to get in a single box like this. And finally on this side here we have another repeat of the box art, but this time it's horizontal rather than vertical, and you've just got a little bit about the kit. Again, the same details that we've got on the top, plus the fact that it's made in the Czech Republic, and a recommendation that you only give it to an adult and not a child, which I think is yeah, probably a fair call there. So that's pretty much it for the box. Unfortunately, this latch is just printed, so I can't really flick it and then unlock it. But opening it up, it's a usual top open box. And we have here our instructions, along with a separate resealable bag for each of the aircraft's clear sprues. So we get two sets of those. Then we have a bag here containing the fuselage and wing sprues, two of them in one bag there. Plus another bag here containing what looks like about 4 sprues with a lot of finer details, but enough for 2 aircraft. Then we have 2 sealable bags here with the photo etch that is pre-painted and the unpainted photo etch, and there's a set for each aircraft. And more resealable bags. This one here appears to have a spare marking or an extra decal. And this looks like your masks, and I'd say there's enough for 2 aircraft in just one sheet there. And finally we have a massive sheet of decals here, which are in a sealed bag. The instructions are printed on a glossy sheet of paper, and they appear to be pretty much fully in colour. They're in a booklet format, which I'm a big fan of. So we've got a repeat of the box art on the cover there. And then opening up, we have a pretty comprehensive history guide to the development of the Bf109, starting off with the beginning and all the specifications of the prototype, then a history about the E variant of 109, followed by the F, and finally you have a detailed guide to the G2 and G4, which are the early G variants, the G6, which is the focus of this kit, along with some nice pictures and some little reference guides on plan drawings. And it appears to go all the way to the last sort of variants of the G5 and the G6 here. And it talks a bit about the difference being between the G5 and the G6, with the main difference being the G5 was pressurized and a bit more tuned for high altitude performance. On this page we get to the start of the actual assembly, and first up we have a key here for the various steps you may have to take when building this kit. Then we have a sprue map, and obviously you have 2 of everything for the 2 aircraft included, except for the masking set. You've got 1 of those, and there's enough masks on them by the looks of things for both aircraft. Then we have here a color guide, and you have both Aquarius and Mr. Color I've personally never used Aqueous or Mr. Colors range, so I'm not sure how easy it is to convert them, but I'm sure there's a way to find all of the substitute colors you'll need if you're not using them. There's all the standard sort of black, whites, and reds, plus all of the RLM colors, which should be relatively easy to find an alternative for. Moving on to the first stage of assembly, we have what looks like the cockpit floor, and there's quite a lot of little bits to add. We've got the trim wheel and I believe the flaps as well to assemble here, and it looks like there's options for either plastic parts or photo etch ones, which require a little bit more assembly, but some of them will be pre-painted and have some extra details. We've also got for the color guides here, not only the color codes, but also a English word for the colors. So like in this case we have RLM 66 black grey plus the codes for Mr. Color and Aquarius, which is good. And it says these are for both G5 and G6, so I'm assuming that unless it says otherwise, this assembly is universal. After you've installed the wheels here for the cockpit floor, you then have the instrument panel, and as you can see it says which each assembly stage is for which marking. So for A, B, C and D you have this particular gun sight, whereas for E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M and N you have what looks like a slightly different instrument panel there by the looks of things, or some different decals. So there's a lot of really fine bits to keep an eye out for. It's quite a crowded set of instructions, but as long as you kind of know which aircraft you're going for in terms of the marking choice, then it should hopefully be a case of just picking each step for the aircraft. But we've got options here for either decals or a assembly for photo-etched instrument panels, which is cool. I'm happy that they include the decals if you don't want to use these photo-etch, or if you, say, want to use the photo-etch for another kit, you have still got spare decals, which is cool. Love to have some spare bits in my kits. After you've assembled the instrument panel, you then have the back of the cockpit's seat there, plus the control column. Then you're adding in the rudder pedals with options for photo etch ones, the assembly for the instrument panel that you've just done, and the cover for the cannon barrel and the bucket seat, which is typical of the 109. Got some photo etch seat belts here, which are a nice touch, and looks like some extra photo etched wiring to add to the trim wheel system there, which is very complicated but quite detailed looking. Then we have what looks like the sort of fuse box here, along with the fuel line that you can sort of see running through the cockpit. And it's got a specific color code or guide for the fuel line there, which is a little bit easier to follow that it's zoomed in. I also got various gauges and extra photo etch bits to add to the side here that I believe are part of the oxygen system there. And for the fuse box, I should have mentioned there are either photo etched options or decals, which is cool. Then we've got what looks like some extra photo etched throttle and engine controls and wiring for the left side of the fuselage. And once you've installed all of the stuff for the right and left fuselage halves, you can then join them together. Looks like there's a few things that may need to be filled or drilled out, depending on which scheme you're doing, so keep a close eye as you go. And then you've got a upper part here for the tail, and I believe there's only one option for tail in this kit, and it's the earlier G model rather than the later tall one. And finally for this page you have the cockpit floor, which you can add by putting up into the fuselage. Moving on, we then have some extra small parts for the fuselage. We've got the rear bulkhead behind the pilot's head, plus the bulges that are distinct to the G model. Got some different options, so again, keeping an eye out for your markings, plus you've got different cowlings for the top there. Got an option here for the tropical sand filter, which I believe is used for only one of the kit's markings. Otherwise, you've got the regular supercharger intake, which consists of two pieces, which is pretty typical of most kits. But there is a extra base piece here, which you have to add before you put it on the fuselage. Got our exhaust system here, and there's an option to have it either completely open, or there's also photo-etched exhaust shrouds or a pre-molded one made of plastic, and a few different options again for the different markings. Then we've got an extra little photo-etch piece to add if you're using the sand filter to lock it into place. And then we move on to the horizontal stabilizer, which comes as a single piece, which is interesting. Then we've got a rudder which you can add to the back there, and that sort of locks it into place. We've then got the wings here, and it looks like you've got a few options to drill out holes for different armament options, including for the center rack, and I believe there were rockets included in this kit. Then we've got a single piece here for each wheel well to add a little bit of extra depth and interior detailing, which is nice. and once you've added those onto the lower wing halves, you can then add the two upper halves. Interestingly, they've moulded the pitot tube into the left wing there, which I would probably have preferred if it was a separate piece, but I'm sure there's a reason they've done it that way. It just means you've got to be a little bit careful you don't knock it off while handling the model. On the next page here, we have the slats, and I think it's pretty cool. This is the only 109 kit in 72nd scale I've seen where the slats can be in the open or closed position. If you're closing them, you have to sand away an extra little nub on each one of them so that they'll fit flush to the wing, but in most cases with the aircraft on the ground, they would be open. I think I might actually try and not glue them and use a bit of blue tack when I build this model, just so I can animate them for stop motions, because I think that would be quite cool if I can get that to work. But yeah, that's pretty awesome that you have that option there. You've also got the ailerons here and the nav lights, which I believe are transparent parts that you paint either clear red or clear green, which is cool. Then we've got the radiator assembly, which it looks like you've got a single plastic piece here, but looks like you may have to adjust it if you want it in the open position. And then there's some photo-etched grills to attach to the inside of the radiator there. Plus we've got another assembly here for the engine cooling system just on the underside there. I believe these might be for the liquid cooling, and then this is the oil cooling system, if I'm not mistaken. But it's pretty similar, although you have a base piece that would attach to the underside of the fuselage there. So again, got some nice photo-etched radiator grills there, which look pretty cool, and then a single piece to cover the top of them. And we've got the flaps here, which they look like they're in the deployed position here. I'm not sure if it says you've got an option to have them retracted, but I'm sure you can figure out a way to adjust them if you want them retracted. Then we've got the landing gear assembly, and it looks like similar to the Tamiya kit, we have a large section of the fuselage possibly part of the landing gear, or it's a very large attachment point to help make them nice and solid, which I think is a good idea. Got various options as well for different tires and wheel hubs by the looks of things that vary depending on which aircraft you're doing. And we've even got some photo-etched brake lines or sort of hydraulic lines that you can add to the struts, which are pretty cool. So once you've chosen your wheels and assembled that, you can then add it to the wings. Got the little control balances for each aileron plus a tail wheel. Interestingly, it's only saying there's one option for tail wheel here, so I'm not sure if there's various ones. I know the 109 used a fair few different tails. Some of them were retractable, some of them were sort of extended so that the aircraft could carry bombs, that sort of thing. But it looks like you've just got one in this case. And then we've got a little photo-etched antenna, which goes on the bottom there. We've got one feature that's unique that I haven't seen. We've got one feature here which I haven't seen in other kits, and that is the inclusion of a starter handle, which can be put on the right side of the cowling, where you would crank it to get the inertia up before the pilot then cranked it over. So that's a pretty cool inclusion. Would have been awesome if there was a pilot figure and maybe even one ground crew member to operate that included in this kit, but I suppose you can't have everything, and I'm sure there's some resin Luftwaffe or even the old Airfix set of ground crew that you could adjust to have them holding that if you wish to do a ground diorama thing of this kit. Moving on, we have the main differences here being the pressurization, so I think there's a few different assemblies for the G5 with its canopy. So obviously it says up in the corner that it's for the G5 only, these steps, and that consists of adding a armoured plate to the back of the canopy piece here, followed by another kind of headrest, and then what looks like a small, I think that's sort of an attachment or a handle to eject the canopy. And then for the front windshield, there's a photo-etched sort of frame piece there, which looks pretty awesome. Obviously, you've got an option to have the canopy open, and it even includes a photo-etched sort of, I think it was basically like a rope kind of thing to help the canopy stop from going too far or extending too far open. Or it might have been some sort of lock, I'm not quite sure how it worked, but either way you've got that little extra detailed kind of handle there for the canopy if you have it opened. You've also got the propeller assembly. Looks like it's pretty simple, just a single piece here with the 3 blades, which gets attached onto a base piece, and then the spinner goes on top of that. I don't believe you have the option to have a washer to lock the propeller in place, so if you want it to be a nice solid fit, you're going to have to glue it. If you want the prop to rotate, I suppose you can either try and rig something up yourself, or maybe even put a polycap in there and then install the propeller blade, Would have been nice if you had the option to spin the propeller, but that's sort of more just me. I know the majority of people won't want it to spin if it's in a diorama. Interestingly, we also have a different pitot tube option included, so I suppose if you want to swap them out, you have to cut the old one off, which is a little bit weird. Next, we have the canopy section for the G6, and as you can see, the main difference between the two seems to be you have this little piece, like a hose pipe looking thing, and it also doesn't have that same piece here for sort of, I think its main purpose is cutting off the canopy section so it can be pressurized. But yeah, otherwise though, assembly is pretty similar. You still have those little handles, and there appears to be a different armoured headrest depending on which version you're going with. I believe that's the solid one, and then this is the one where it was made out of glass, so you had a bit more visibility, which is cool. Then we've got a slightly different cover there, I believe, for the... oh no, it's the same. So we've got that same seal between the front and the middle canopy section, and after you've assembled that, you can put those pieces together. Looks like there's another little bit of piping for the back of the canopy section there, plus the little antenna for the rear canopy. And again, different option for pitot tube, assembly of the propeller blades, and then if you have the canopy open, you have the option to include that sort of stick thing. Moving on to the next page, we have for only one of the schemes a few photo-etched plates to add. I'm not too sure what they are. One of them looks like some sort of landing light cover, and the other one looks like some sort of ammunition or extra armor plate. So not too sure what it is, but it's only for marking A, which is interesting. Then we've got optional cannon pods here. I thought there were rockets included, but it doesn't appear to be the case. That might have been on later ones. And then for the center rack here, we've got either the fuel tank that's sort of the whole one, or the one that's sort of got a sanded bottom to it, so it fits a little bit better for the 109. And that's pretty much it. Looks like you've got a little bit of a diagram here showing the wiring, which I'd imagine most people will be doing to fully detail this kit. And then on this side, we have a guide for the masking positioning. For some of the masking, you have to use liquid masking, but otherwise you have canopy frame covers and the main wheel hubs covered there, which is pretty cool. And finally, you have the marking guides. So not only do they have some really nice colored guides for each of the schemes, but you've also got a little bit of history about the aircraft and also the pilots. So that's really awesome. Again, if you guys want, I might do a video where I sort of read all of that history and get a little bit more in depth, but otherwise I might just keep it a bit more surface level. So for the first scheme here, we have a Bf 109 G5 and its Verk number is 27119. And it's sort of in the standard RLM 74, 75 and 76 scheme, but it looks like they've added some 70 in some areas, and then sort of done a light spray of 76 over the upper camouflage. Looks like it's also got that early sawtooth kind of markings that were done, I think, by one of the particular factories. For Scheme B here, we have another Bf 109 G5. This time it's work number 26082, and it's from October 1943 in Oldenburg, Germany. And again, it's in the standard camouflage of 74, 76, and 75 with the sawtooth kind of sharp angular patterns. Although it hasn't been oversprayed, and interestingly, this aircraft has a black wing on the left side. I haven't seen that in a German aircraft. I know the British did it during the Battle of Britain or the earlier stages of the war for identification, so yeah, not sure why it's got a black marking there, but that's kind of interesting. For Scheme C, we have another Bf 109 G5, although this time it is a U2, which I believe is basically just a field modification for some different parts. And this aircraft is almost completely RLM 76, which is interesting. So a bit of a more simple scheme there with just that single colour. On this side, D, we've got another Bf 109 G5. This time it's work number 110047, and it is from JG 300, which were the famous wild pig squadron that flew the nighttime operations with the 109 and the 190. And it looks like this aircraft in particular is one of them, with a RLM 76 upper surface but a black underside and some 74 and 70 as well, possibly sprayed over the top there. By the looks of things, it may have been done in 74 and 75 and then they sprayed the 76 over the top, since there's a little bit of the old colours visible under the roundels and around the edges there. So Quite an interesting one, would be very challenging I reckon to do. And then we've got our first of the G6s, and this one is work number 20499, and it was from JG52 in the Soviet Union during October 1943. And by the looks of things there, it had a higher ranking officer. I believe that's like a symbol for the technical officers. I do need to brush up on my Luftwaffe markings at some point, so that could be mistaken. Looks like the aircraft's had a few bits of patchwork done, as the camouflage doesn't look like it's been done too neatly there, and there's some strange oversprays here and there of different colours, but looks like quite a nice kit with the typical challenging mottling on the sides there. And for Scheme F, we have another G6, work number 20272, and it's from JG1 in November 1943, Germany. And it looks like it's got a little bit of overspray and some slight mottling on the sides there, with some camouflage sort of trailing down the sides there, rather than keeping it a little bit more along that divide. So that's a bit different. Also got a nice white tail there, which I believe is this identifier of a leader, or a squadron leader, which is cool. For G here, we have a winter scheme from JG5 in the Soviet Union, early 1944, and it's got two different work numbers, either 18502 or 18503, which is interesting. Might have been an aircraft that was patched together from different ones, or even modified a bit, which is cool. And it's got the typical yellow bands for the Eastern Front, and a nice little Mickey Mouse art scheme on the side there, which is unique. So quite a nice looking scheme. I'm very tempted by this one. Then we've got for H a G6, and this is the tropical one with the filter, and it's got the early sawtooth camouflage pattern there, and again a white rudder there for a squadron leader who looks like he's done quite well for himself by those markings. And this aircraft is work number 27169 from Greece in November 1943. So a little bit of a different campaign and aircraft type to the rest of this kit. Then we've got, looks like another G6 Tropical, although this one apparently doesn't have the tropical filter, so maybe it's been changed to a standard G6 modification later on. And it's from JG50 in, again, Germany, September 1943. It sort of features a lazier version of the sawtooth. The edges are a little bit softer, but which is interesting, and a fair bit of modelling on the side, and again a white tail. Then for Scheme J, another Bf-109 G6, this time work number 18107, and it is from Sicily in June 1943, and I believe it's one that Academy did with that famous Seaman decal on the side there, and it's number white 9. Next we have K, which is another G6, work number 19456, and it's another one from the Eastern Front in August of 1943. I also quite like this one, and interestingly, it looks like it's had the earlier war RLM 70 sort of sprayed on the side there, which I think looks pretty cool. And it's from the Green sort of Heart Squadron, which I believe were quite famous for operating in the Eastern Front. And again, like the other 109 we looked at a bit earlier, it looks like some of the camouflage is a little bit messy and has possibly been repainted. Looks like it's had an aileron swapped out there, or from a different factory, since the camouflage pattern doesn't fully continue on it. And again, got the nice yellow bands from the Eastern Front. Next we have Scheme L, which is another G6, work number 163627, and this is actually from the Finnish Air Force in June 1944. And you can see it's had the old Luftwaffe roundels painted over with RLM 74 by the looks of things. So yeah, got the yellow bands from the Eastern Front, and got the Finnish markings and some different squadron codes there. So quite cool to get a different Air Force marking. We also have one for Italy, and this is from October 1944. Again, it's had the Luftwaffe markings on the wings there painted over with the RLM 76, which is interesting. Looks like there may be a decal included, or it might be that you just put the decal on and then paint over the top. And otherwise, it's got the Italian Socialist Republic markings. On the next page, we have our final scheme, and that is N, and it is a aircraft from the Slovak National Uprising, which is something a bit different. Again, from September 1944. And it has the standard Luftwaffe colours, but again, roundels have been painted over. And interestingly, it's also got a segment here which looks to have been painted in maybe a Soviet colour of some other kind of green. So yeah, quite a wide variety of markings there. I know that a lot of them use the same sort of basic German scheme, but for the most part, it looks like you've got a nice different variety or selection of schemes from very different theatres of the war and even different countries, which is awesome. Then finally, we have in typical Eduard form a separate guide for the stenciling positions, and you've even got separate stencils for the Finnish version by the looks of things, for marking L only, so done in a different language. And then you've got your standard German ones. Interesting that there's no different ones for the Italian or the Czechoslovakian one, but I suppose they probably never got them re-stenciled, and I guess the Italians might not have bothered either. But otherwise, you've got a few different options here and there, but a pretty comprehensive and relatively easy to follow guide for all of those finer markings. So that's pretty much it for the instructions. It's a little bit of a mixed bag, although for the most part things are pretty clear and very nicely laid out. There are a lot of assembly steps and a lot of different options for different aircraft, so I think it's definitely not for the faint of heart. You're definitely going to have to take it slow and pick which aircraft you're doing before beginning the assembly, because of all those finer different things that you've got to do along the way. But I do really love that they've slowed it down so it's not too crowded, although it is still a little bit crowded. They've sort of tried to split it up into sections, so take your time and you should be okay. I love the marking guides, and I love that they include that extra history with all of them. Love that the common stencils are on a separate page here, so it's really easy to follow. And yeah, for the most part, instructions are pretty good, even though it's a bit of a complicated aircraft to assemble. So with them out of the way, let's have a look at the plastic parts. So I'll open up the first set of sprues in this bag here, and it's sort of almost a resealable bag. There's a little bit of adhesive still there, so if you were going to take it out and then put it away, you could reseal it almost. But in this bag you get two sets of these sprues, one for each aircraft obviously, and they contain the wing halves with the lower section here and the upper section, although you'll be using only these ones, as I think these have the late war blister for the later versions of the G model. And then we have the base fuselage halves here, along with what looks like some cannon pods for the underside, a few small accessories of some kind here and bulges, a set of looks like machine guns, and a few different tyres and one set of wheel hubs, along with a rear bulkhead. And as you can see, the surface detail on this kit is absolutely amazing. There's all these individual little rivets, and all the recessed panel lines look absolutely amazing. All the moulding appears to be quite crisp, and all the access hatches look good. So yeah, some absolutely amazing surface detail on these parts. All those little access hatches have their hinges, and you can see the little points to open them up. It's absolutely beautifully done. There's a few little bits and pieces that have a tiny bit of flash on them, but there's nothing major that can't be fixed. And on the other side here, as you can see, absolutely beautiful crisp details for the interior parts there on both sides by the looks of things. Yeah, you can see all the throttle controls and the trim wheels and the ribbing there, absolutely beautifully done. And there's even a little bit of detail for the wings, for the interior there, with riveting detail and ribbing. So absolutely fantastic job, and that surface detail is absolutely beautiful. The next bag we have here contains a couple more sprues. Again, it's got that similar adhesive style, with the bag kind of being resealable. And in it we have what looks like four different sprues, two of them for each aircraft. And we'll start off with this smaller one here, and it appears to contain a lot of the different optional parts. I think these might be part of the interior, with those little sort of tube things that we saw on the inside of the cockpit in the canopy. Looks like a interior part for a replacement throttle or something like that. A large antenna for the underside of the wing. Got our ailerons just here. Individual hubs for the different variations that are included. Another set of tyres and another bulkhead for the canopy. Looks like we've got our smaller tail surfaces there. Interestingly, one of these does not have rivet details, but the other does, so I suspect this is the metal version, and then this might be a wooden version from the later model aircraft. We've got some cowlings here, and one of them is a little bit damaged. That's very fragile there along those hinge lines there. But again, like the rest of the kit, some beautiful surface detail with riveting and recessed panel lines. I've got a lot of different parts that are similar but subtle variations of each other to make sure you get an accurate depiction of the particular model of aircraft you're going for. Got a few different options for late war tails with the ribbing visible and some nice mix of raised and recessed details on them, with recessed marks here for the tabs but raised rivets, which look awesome. And we've got the bulges here for the G model with some very nice, again, recessed riveting details. We've got our radiator here, and honestly, I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but you've got a really nice radiator texture. Almost don't even need photo etching for those parts, they look so good. And we've got some supercharger intakes here, two different kinds, a smaller one and a later one with some different base pieces for them. And we've got our little cannon cover there, all looking really fantastic. Oh, we've also got our propeller here before I move on. Looks really nice, very cleanly molded. There doesn't appear to be too much flashing or any seam line on them, which is great. And finally in the bottom here, we've got our little rounded antennas and some various little machine gun barrels there. So this sprue is looking really quite nice. It's got the same level of detail as the rest of the kit, and it shows just a little glimpse at some of the different options we have, which may not necessarily be used in this particular kit, but it is a tooling that's been reused for a few different variations of the 109, so that's pretty cool. They're getting a lot of mileage out of it, and you get a lot of spares if you're not going to use some of these bits. And the last grey moulded plastic sprue we have here is a bit of a bigger one. And I'll start in this corner. We've got our little starter handles. Interestingly, you've got two, and they appear to be identical, along with two little attachment points here for, I believe, bombs or something like that, perhaps. Got our different instrument panels here. So you've got one version that's got raised details, which look really nice. And then we've got another one here that's just a smooth surface for attaching decals or photo etching to. Next, we've got one of our tail wheels, and this appears to be one that has a cover for the retractable section, so it might be a fixed version. Some really nice details on it though. I don't know how well the camera's picking it up, but there's a little fabric cover texture which looks good, and nice hub detailing, so that looks really fantastic. We've got what looks like a part of a bomb here, probably a 250 kilo one, although I don't think any of the aircraft in this kit are Yabos, so I don't think they'll be carrying any bombs. We've got our interior detailing here for the wheel well, which on the inside here actually has some raised rivet detailing and looks absolutely fantastic on the inside there, which is great. Then we've got our bomb rack here, and we've got our radiator here for the underside of the nose, and it's got recessed rivets with some really nice raised hinges there, which look great. Then we've got our cockpit floor section here with some really nice raised detailing for the floor there, plus a nice bit of detail on the back. We've got our rudder pedals there as well, and I believe there's a photo etch version to go on top of them for some extra detail. And we've got a few of the little controls on the floor there with some really nice crisp raised details. We've got another option for propeller blades. I think this is a slightly narrower version for a different variant. We appear to have some more ailerons, and we've got our horizontal stabilizers with some really nice detailing for the elevators there, and really nice recessed panel lines for the rest of it. We've got the slats here with, I believe, the little notches on the inside there for if they're extended, so it might be a bit tricky to sand those down if you have them retracted, but otherwise they look quite nice. Got our main landing gear struts, which have some nice details on them, and they appear to have quite large joints, as I mentioned earlier, so they should be quite nice and solid. Got another option for a rear bulkhead behind the pilot there, plus even more options for hubs for the tyres. All of them looking really fantastic. I love these ones with the larger hexagonal nuts and the big one in the center, but then all those small rivet details. It's really nicely done. Got our bucket for the pilot to sit in there. Got our fuse box here with some nice raised details that are almost good enough on their own without the photo etching stuff. Not too sure what this part is, but then we appear to have our trim wheel or our flap wheel. I think they're both in the same kind of position. Then we've got our smaller tail option here with some really nice recessed riveting like the rest of the kit. The base for the propeller hub to attach to. Then we've got another part of a 250 kilogram bomb by the looks of things. Looks like it would attach to the one we saw a bit earlier. Got our optional cannon pods on the underside there, along with the earlier model rudder with some really nice raised ribbing and got our earlier model of rudder with some really nice raised riveting and ribbing details on it, which looks fantastic. Got one of the armoured headrests here, along with another variation of the cannon cover for the cockpit. Looks like the other side for the cannon pods for the underside of the wings. And here we have our exhausts with the shrouds moulded to them, along with the landing gear bay doors with some really nice raised ribbing and riveting detail on the inside there, and some fantastic recessed panel lining and detailing on the outside there. Looks like the flaps here with some really nice recessed riveting on them, along with the underside wing radiators, which both look fantastic. Another option for a centerline pod or something, but I'm not too sure if it's for this particular kit. Got a much taller tail wheel. Then we have some exhausts here with some really nice detailing on them. They're not drilled out, but they would probably be quite difficult to do given how small these parts are, so I think they've done a pretty nice job. Looks like some cannon barrels there, possibly, along with yet more tail wheel designs. We've got, I think, 3 different ones in this corner of varying lengths and sizes, depending on which variant you're doing. Then coming to the last kind of row here, we've got the back of the seat there, looking quite good. Got some more bits here, not too sure what they are. They, yeah, hard to tell with those ones. Then we've got various tropical filters, and there appears to be 3 different kinds. I think they've got different patternings on them, and then this last one is if you're using the photo etching to get the grill kind of texture on it. Then we've got some more bits for the bomb and the 2 different fuel tanks. Again, really nice detailing on them. They're all quite cleanly molded and have some very nice recessed panel lining and some nice raised details where appropriate. Got our late war tyres without any tread pattern on them, so quite nice and smooth, and they look quite good. And finally, we've got our control balances here, along with the various options for antennas. A very nicely done control column there with some very good detailing. The different pitot tubes that are included in this kit. Yet another option for air intakes. And finally, we have the spinner itself, which has some really nice recessed panel lining and rivet details on it, and the cannon barrel is completely drilled out, which looks really quite fantastic. The last plastic bits that come in this kit are the canopy sections. So each aircraft has its own rather large sprue of clear parts, and as you can see, much like the rest of the kit, there is a massive number of optional parts. Obviously, a lot of these are for different versions of this kit, like we've got the late war canopy styles without the frames, which I don't believe were used on the G-6 or the G-5 very often, and at least it doesn't seem that there are any in this particular kit that use them. But we've got the earlier war sort of frames for the G models there, and as you can see with my finger on the inside of there, even these really curved bits have some, or very little distortion, and the thickness of them looks pretty appropriate. I don't see too many scratches or imperfections, and all of them have really nice details. Even the canopy frames have rivets on them, like raised, and yeah, the framework looks really good. You've got all these different options here for the front window section, and I can see on some of them it appears to be differences in the sort of air inlets on the windows there. Some of them don't have it, like on this one. And I believe this may be a tropical version with that little hole there for mounting the umbrella. And yeah, they're all really quite fantastic looking bits and pieces here. We've even got our various gun sights here, which look beautiful. Got our nav lights, and I think there's 2 different options for nav lights, or maybe even spares by the looks of things, which is great. And we have our clear armoured headrest with the armoured glass. And I really love that they've done the fuel line here in a clear plastic, because the middle section would have been clear, which I believe was a way of sort of seeing if the fuel was flowing through the fuel line. So even though it's a really small detail, they've still gone to the length of including it as a clear bit, which is really awesome. And it looks like we've got even more gun sights here, and the bulkhead for the G5 model, which actually appears to be have a few little windows on it, so that's interesting. I'm not too familiar with the G5, so it'd be cool to do a bit more research before I do one, but yeah, clear parts here look absolutely fantastic, just like the rest of the kit, and really cleanly molded and fantastically detailed. So with Eduard kits, as I've sort of mentioned in my recent build video on the Grumman Hellcat, you get both a weekend and a regular kind of edition of Eduard kits or Profi Pack, plus obviously these sort of dual combos and limited edition kits. And being a dual combo, it comes with the additional photo etch, which would be part of the Profi Packs. So both aircraft get a set of these photo etched parts, and they include these absolutely stunning pre-colored ones, and I'll try and zoom in so you can see all the details, but they are absolutely beautiful. You've got your main instrument panel there, and you've got the backing for it, plus the sort of cover that goes on the top there, so you'll get some really nice depth out of it. And you've got pre-painted seat belts, you've got pre-painted looks like little controls for the throttles and the oxygen system, the fuse box in the corner here, this larger piece, various little toggles, and yeah, all this little wiring, so it looks absolutely fantastic. I really love that they've done the trim wheel there too with the red and the white. So yeah, looking absolutely beautiful with these pre-colored ones. I'm a big fan of the photo etch in the Eduard kits. Each aircraft has its own set of these unpainted photo etch frets, and they include the rudder pedals here with the straps on them, these sort of textured grills, which I don't know if are used on this particular version, but they are there just in case. The little kind of seal for the canopy frames, a few other little bits and pieces here for antennas and that sort of thing. The front radiators here with some nice grille detail, a few other little bits of wiring. I think these are for the brake lines on the landing gear. Looks like a bomb fin, tail fin there for a different version. The radiators for the inside of the wings, various other little bits of wiring and cables, even some photo etched options for antennas there, and these look like those strange landing light kind of looking pieces that go on one of the kits, along with this kind of framework piece. And not too sure what these ones are here in the bottom, but yeah, quite a few different options for photo etching there, and some really nice extra details out of these ones. So we've looked at all of the parts for the actual aircraft, but we also have, of course, our wonderful decals and the pre-cut masks. So I'll open this one up, and again, it's in the same resealable kind of bag. So I'm just going to take extra care not to accidentally get the decals stuck on that adhesive part, because nothing is worse than when you accidentally get the decals stuck on it and then you tear them. So got that one out, and the smaller ones here. So with this main big one, we have a nice piece of paper to sort of protect it from any moisture. And as you can see, we've got a million different Balkenkreutzes. We've got the symbol which shall not be named, including the Finnish version. Plus some extra decals there to assemble the German one. Got the Italian flag for the particular aircraft, all of the different markings for each particular scheme, and in the corner here we have all of the common stencils, the Czechoslovakian markings, and a few other little bits and pieces here and there. And yeah, Eduard decals tend to be of quite a good quality. There is a bit of a weird kind of textury film to them, where some of them are a little bit glossy, and then in other spots they're sort of not, especially with these ones in the corner I'm noticing. But I think as long as you look after these decals and do a gloss varnish coat before you put them on, and then do a varnish coat on top of them to protect them and also give them a nice uniform finish, you should get a fantastic result with them. And yeah, on the whole, quality on them is absolutely fantastic, just like the rest of the kit. And even on all of these smaller stencils, you can quite easily read all of the details. Looks like these markings are in Finnish, and then the other set of common stencils, which looks like you get two of, one for each aircraft, are in German by the looks of things. And in some cases you even have black and red versions of different markings and text. So that's absolutely fantastic that they go to that level of detail and depth with these aircraft. I really think that's one of the best things about the Eduard kits, not just the quality, but also the level of research and detail they go into. It's, yeah, definitely something really special, and you can see just how clearly all of that writing is. It's absolutely superb quality. There's also a small bag here which contains, I think, just one decal by the looks of it. Let me see if I can get it out. There we go. Yep, and that is the number 9 Seaman decal, which is on one of the kits. I think it's a very creative name there. I'm not too sure why they haven't bothered to do it on this one and have included an entirely separate little offcut of decal paper, but maybe that was just the most efficient way to do it. Or it's an alternative perhaps, because I do see we've got one in the corner here without the Seaman text, and then we have on this one the text there on the bottom, so it looks like perhaps it was included as an extra optional or a correction at some point. So that's a little bit quirky, but yeah. Oh, and another thing I'll point out is we have instrument decals here, which are of absolutely fantastic quality, and you could put them on the raised one and hopefully get a really nice effect, or even put them on the flat one. So even if you don't feel like messing around with the photo etch, like I keep saying, you can still get a pretty fantastic result from the rest of this kit. And the last thing to have a look at in this kit are the die-cut masks for the canopies and the tyres. And as you can see, they're of pretty nice quality, and you can sort of just make out the individual sort of sections of the mask. So wonderful that they're included. Even if you don't airbrush, they're still really handy to have. So a really nice little inclusion, and I haven't had any issues with them in the past, so very much looking forward to using these in this kit. So that pretty much wraps up our look at the Eduard Bf 109 Gustav Part 1 dual combo. So I paid around about 60, and that's Australian dollars for this one, just a little bit under, which puts each aircraft at around about 30 AUD, which compares them to the AZ model kit. But unlike the AZ kit, you have a lot more surface detail with all the rivets, a lot more cleaner and more detailed cockpit parts, really fantastic photo etching, and the masking sets, plus those instructions are really great, and I love that they include not only all the basic information and some really nice notes and references for building these aircraft, but also the history behind individual schemes. So yeah, a really brilliant kit. I would say this is definitely the best 1/72nd scale Bf 109G in terms of details and accuracy that I've seen so far. And although I'm very excited to build this one eventually, I am also a little bit nervous. I wouldn't consider myself a total expert modeler or anything like that, so it is a little bit of a daunting kit. But hopefully with the other kits I've got to work on, I'll have a bit more practice, and I may have some new techniques that I'll be a bit more confident with that I can try out, and hopefully get a fantastic result with these two models. Otherwise though, thanks very much for watching this video. I do hope you enjoyed it and got something out of it. If you did, please be sure to leave a like and also subscribe to the channel, as it really helps out. And a massive shout out to my wonderful patrons for helping me fund not only buying these kits, but also the products I use to build them. And I apologise for this one being a little bit late. It was originally a bit over an hour of footage that I had to edit, and it's already quite a long video, so it needed a bit of extra time. I'm also going to be releasing the Hasegawa 1/72nd scale Kai 15 build video this weekend, so stay tuned for that one as well. Otherwise though, thanks again, and until the next video, as always, take care and model on.